Welcome to the 36th installment of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. With me today, he's the head coach of UH Cheerleading, entering year number 18. We're talking with Coach Mike Baker. Coach, welcome to Talk Story.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm real excited. You guys do a great job.
We appreciate the kind words, and thank you for watching all year long. And now you get to be in one of these. So let's start here, Coach. From football to basketball to volleyball, whether it's in the arena or on the field, we see your teams at many of the UH sporting events. What has this past athletic season been like for you as a coach when there's been no live cheering at events?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're blessed to be able to bring the top athletes from across the country and here locally to this program. And, our program is, based around crowd involvement, interaction with the community and the crowd. And I mean, really interaction, interaction is a big thing for us. And we like to have the fans come in and enjoy themselves, make them feel welcome, and then get them riled up and unite them and get them yelling at the right times for the teams. So that's a big focus of ours. And COVID kind of came in and went straight into that realm. We also like to compete with, like I said, we have a lot of the top athletes and the cheer community out here in Hawaii, a lot of stars. And along with missing being at the games and interacting with our wonderful fans, these athletes, and the same as the other athletes across the country, and here at UH, when they just weren't able to be active and do what they love to do, that was difficult. That was a real challenge for them. So, we did Zoom meetings, we did all kinds of little things to keep them going, but boy, it was quite the challenge.
Has it been a little different for you this past year, not losing your voice during a game?
Did you say? Well, that's funny that you said that. I got to volunteer one of the women's basketball games in, I think it was in December. I volunteered a few of them, but one of them was a tight game. I knew the team. It was a crucial game for the team, and I got to lose my voice that day. But yeah, usually I develop calluses over the season, so it was a bit of a surprise.
Who or what got you into cheerleading?
Wow, that's a great question. And back in the day, I was a break dancer. I played football. I played everything in my, everybody pushed me into football because I had the build for a football player, but I love break dancing. I love getting that crowd reaction when you do something cool or something they haven't seen before. And I just loved it. And so it actually went out of style for a little while. And so me and my friends, we still like to do tricks and stuff. We still played, conventional sports, but I got into tumbling and gymnastics at that time. My sister was a cheerleader. She was older than me and is older than me. And she actually, although I was born here, I grew up in Seattle. And so she cheered at the University of Washington, and she'd get tickets to the games, and I'd go watch the football game, and then I'd look down and I'd see the cheerleaders tumbling, and I was like, I could do that. I think I could do it better, maybe. I'm not sure. No, they were real good, but so yeah, so that I was open to that. A cheerleader talked myself and another football player into cheering my junior year in high school. I injured my shoulder the season before, and so I did it one year, and at the pep rallies and everything, I'd do a backflip, and the whole football team and all the basketball players, all my friends would jump up. They just loved it, and so then I was like, okay, I'd work up new tricks for the next pep rally because it was just so much fun. And then the other guy that I was cheering with, my other friend, he graduated that year, so I went back to football and everything else. And then I just kind of miss being a part of everything. When you're in cheerleading, you're a little bit of a part of everything. You kind of know what's going on, and the interaction is really key. When I got to college, I did my undergraduate at the University of Washington, and the team there had already had their eyes on me. So they knew I was Michelle Baker's little brother and that I could do stuff. And so they recruited me pretty hard, and they didn't have to twist my arm too much. And so then that's how I kind of got started.
We don't normally hear of, say, the recruiting process for cheerleading, just because some people may feel it as, kind of a minor sport. It's still important for athletics programs, but it's not as big as, say, football or basketball or baseball or volleyball. But when you go through the recruiting process, having gone through it as both a player and now as a coach, what kind of things do you look for when you recruit that next cheerleader to be at UH?
Great question. So, as far as the recruiting process, yeah, it's and you touched on a couple of things, but in the cheerleading world, there's a whole world in cheerleading, and it's big. Like when you kind of poke your head into everything cheer, it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, there's world championships. Every other countries have incredible teams. It's pushing towards Olympic level, and the Olympics have recognized it as a sport, and so here at UHR, we keep it that way, but we're also big on our fans and our community. So when I'm looking for athletes, we have a good reputation in the cheer community here at UH. So it's not real hard to find quality skills and techniques and athletes and potential athletically. We're real lucky that way. So the nice thing is I can then pick and choose and find good people that I can picture in front of our crowd, and interacting with the aunties and everybody that we love here at UH in our community. And here at UH, in Hawaii, there's not a professional sports team. So, these games are the show. And so these young athletes are going to be recognized at the store and walking down the street or anywhere. And so you need to have mature athletes that can handle that type of kind of celebrity, here in the islands. And when they represent well, I mean, it works out so greatly, and it's so fun for them.
When you were at UW, finishing up your undergrad, you were also coaching. You got your first coaching experience over at Puget Sound. What type of experiences did you learn in your first coaching stint over at Puget Sound?
Yeah, well, so I had I'd finished up at UW, and I had one class left in that fall, and so I was teaching summer camps. I taught for a company that does the ESPN shows, puts on the nationals. I worked for them for almost 20 years, but at that time I was cheering and I was teaching summer camps, and I'd been approached by the athletic director there, and he said, "Look, we need a cheer coach and advisor. Would you be interested?" And I thought, wow. And I thought, I only have one class left, and so I wasn't planning on cheering, and I thought I might miss it. So I took that on. So I was coaching, team members that were a couple of them were older than me, and so, but they were real respectful, and I had done so many coaches meetings up until that point, because I ran a lot of the cheer camps, and we'd do coaches meetings, and I was well versed on everything a coach should do. I'd been trained in it, and then the biggest help was the feedback in all those years, of those few years at that point, that I had gotten from coaches, the things that they had run into, And I didn't have the experience as a coach, so a lot of times I'd get the coaches talking and kind of answering each other. And lo and behold, I would run into all those things, and I had already gotten experience from talking to the other coaches. So yeah, from ordering the uniforms to road trips to everything, I was able to just jump right in and do that. And it gave me definitely a different perspective, especially doing that 1 year, then deciding to come out here to UH to attend grad school. I think I was probably much more helpful to the coaches having coached myself for a year. Yeah, so it was an interesting time, but it was a great, wonderful experience.
I have to ask this because I can only assume that this has not happened until you got out to Hawaii, and whether it was at Washington or Puget Sound, you spent some time over at Hawaii Pacific. Were you intimidated when you first saw the Bazooka or the Super Bazooka and you had to use it for events?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And if I remember right, the old one used to sit on your shoulder like an actual bazooka. and that was something. And you have these aren't paid positions. These are student athletes. And so you have kind of a turnover. So there's always going to be that first game where somebody's using the bazooka. Now we have it's set up so you can get the level right and things like that. And every once in a while, the air doesn't get pumped up or something like that. But I think that it's fun. And the great thing about our cheerleaders is that they have a good sense of humor. And so, man, I mean, sometimes the air pressure is low and those things are just, boo, and the crowd is like, boo, and then, I mean, I tell the cheerleaders, I mean, what would you say? What would you do? They're having fun, and it's fun to boo the thing because they want a t-shirt. They don't know if the t-shirt's going to fit them. They don't know what the t-shirt says. But when a t-shirt's going, the whole crowd they're like little kids, and so it's fun yeah. So the cheerleaders have fun with it, definitely.
You've been to many venues. You've been to a lot of loud places. I mean, Husky Stadium can get quite loud from time to time. Is there any particular game or a moment that sticks out in your mind, whether it was in your time at UW or if it's been here at Hawaii? Is there a game or a moment where you can just recall that's the loudest I've ever experienced the game while on the sidelines with my cheer team?
Yeah, it's I've been doing this a while, so I kind of have a cluster of moments. But and I'll try to keep this short. But at Washington, we kind of figured out if we got at that time it was the Go Huskies, and if we got that going in the middle of usually you make a lot of noise down in the end zones, but we get that going on the 50-yard line. So if teams would be coming into the 40-yard lines or going out of the 40-yard line, we would get that going at that time. And it seemed like 2 out of 3 times the plays would be broken up, or there'd be a fumble, or there'd be a sack. And at that time, the crowd kind of figured that out. They kind of figured, so they were in on it. And at that time, it had been in some articles that it was the loudest that a stadium had been recorded up until that point. I think it held for quite a while, but for me, that the perfect season here at UH, I don't know what it registered on the loudness meter, but I mean, those last 2 games of that season were unbelievable. And I had seen some great games, and I've been to to multiple Rose Bowls. I've been to all kinds of things. And that when that stadium was going, it would go. And those but at the same time, those Raptors, I mean, my gosh, I know there's fans out there that saw this, but those things were going like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. But that was fun. Actually in Stan Sheriff, it's impressively loud. And there, the year that the last year that the basketball team made it into the NCAA tournament, both basketball teams made it into the NCAA tournament. Those games would get incredibly loud. Those are fun, but some of these volleyball games, I mean, it shakes your head a little, like it shakes your head a little bit. How loud those things can get. It's impressive, and the crowd's definitely in on it. They know what they're doing, and so it's fun. And I think it's fun for opposing teams to come in and see that. I know it is because they like people on the benches are like filming it from other teams. They should be focused, but maybe that's part of the whole thing.
It really is, Coach. Hey, we got to take a break right here, but stay right there. Along with head coach Mike Baker from UH Cheerleading, I'm Tiff Wells. You're listening to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Welcome back to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm Tiff Wells. We're here with UH Cheerleading head coach Mike Baker. Now, Coach, we've talked about certain games, certain venues that can be loud. It's going to be different this year. There is no Halawa Stadium. We've learned that it's condemned for use for the next couple of years while they build a new entertainment district. You guys will be at TC Ching Athletic Complex for the next 3 years. But when you think about those Saturday nights in Halawa, what kind of comes to mind, and give us your sideline perspective when you were there with your team?
Yeah, and like you said, David Matlin and the crew here are doing a great job with what they've got during this pandemic and everything. It's impressive. Outside of my office, I get to watch the progression of Ching Field, and we're all very excited about that. The memories in Halawa, I mean, it's great, and we have such wonderful super fans out there, and the flags that are going, outside on the in the parking lot, and all of the tailgates and everything. That's a lot of fun. Once we get into the stadium, that stadium was, kind of epic, and so the memories in there are going to be great. And even on our Instagram, you can see some of those memories captured. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of special times in there. And as a cheerleader there were, and then also as a coach.
What kind of maybe obstacles, but also new ideas, or just what kind of things are you looking forward to with this new facility on campus where you guys get to be cheering at home football games in a couple of months for the next couple of seasons?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it would be great to be able to hold more fans right now. I think that they have plans on expanding that next year. I know they're doing the best they can right now. It's gonna, for us and for the band and everybody, it's just gonna be really nice being right here and being able to, even warm up where we normally warm up for the Stan Sheriff games and then head out to the field. Just getting out to the stadium that'd be a whole thing. It would be a whole thing. Whether, if buses were late or, and so that was a thing, and we had to kind of start the ball rolling from a total stop when we got there. Once we're here, this is going to be a real comfort zone for the cheer team. Also, needless to say, the students are going to be, they're going to be rebel rousing all over the place, and they're going to be loud, and I think it's going to feel great. And so I know Todd Graham's doing a great job, and he treats everybody so well, and he comes up and talks to the cheerleaders and myself, and he's excited about getting some things going. We have traditions that we have, like our run out with the surfboard. I mean, that's a little bit of an epic tradition. So we're gonna keep a lot of the good stuff, but we're gonna add so many great things. Yeah, so that as more information comes out, we'll know where the students are gonna be at. We'll generate a lot of things around the students. But I think that doing something potentially the night before, now it's going to be a little bit easier to do a rally here, and then maybe something before the game, leading the students down to the field, and yeah, just setting up some neat traditions while we have it here on campus is going to be important, and we're all about it.
Who decides which cheerleader gets to be on the surfboard when you guys do run out ahead of the team?
This is a great question. I decide. That ends up being like a little bit of a stress point for me. I'm like, okay, and then also you kind of have this feeling like, okay, well, we have to pick the right person because it's going to be, it kind of might be a luck thing. So yeah, but we pretty much will go by seniority or something like that, and that's the easiest way to do it. And so yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the girls. They're all so athletic that they can jump up. And by the way, I mean, I think I'd be so nervous jumping up on that surfboard in front of sometimes up to 50,000 people, and but these guys, they're courageous. They jump right up and they're excited about it.
When I say you're a member of the original cheerleading Team USA squad, how much of an honor is it for you when you hear that, when you were selected for that team?
Oh man, yeah. At that time, cheerleading was expanding, and it was mostly an American sport. Other countries were interested in it, but they knew very little about it. There wasn't as much social media, around 2000 or whatever, and so yeah, they put together a team to go and perform at a place it's called Gymnastrada, and it's held every 4 years in different locations in the world, and it's kind of like you can think of like a gymnastic acrobatic Olympics. That's what it would be like. And so the United States put together a team that was going to represent the USA and travel to I think is I'm going to say it wrong, but like Gothenburg, Sweden. I'm so sorry but yeah, so it was in Sweden, and at that time, then whenever we would perform or do a performance, it was standing room only. The whole place would be packed. And I mean, even just for us just leaving, you felt like you were LeBron James or something, just walking out of these venues. It was a neat experience. And that, I think, triggered off that right there. Some key people at that time. Jim Lord and they triggered cheerleading in Europe, and so that kind of now it's very big in Europe. It's big all over the world, and so yeah, that really seeded international cheerleading as we know it today, and it's highly competitive. There's some great teams in Finland, and I don't even want to start naming them because I'll leave people out. Pretty much so many countries have great teams, and it's it's an American. They see it as an American sport, kind of like maybe ballet would be. Is it French, France, and so yeah. So it was at that time. It was a big honor. A lot of well-known people came from that team right there and ended up coaching at Kentucky and coaching all over the place, and it was a really neat experience to do that with a great group.
We see the trophy in the background. You guys recently competed in the University Cheerleaders Association National Championships. Although the event was a little bit different this year, describe how different it was this year for you folks, and how did you guys do?
Yeah, so we where do I start? So I touched on it earlier, but in the fall, we were basically doing Zoom calls, and I'm lucky. Our athletes, um, we just have some great people, but you could tell that they're down. We all of a sudden got the green light in second semester, and a big part of that was that the organization that puts on the normal nationals that we go to, where they were doing a virtual one. So they also had an in-person one um, the week after, and they had a virtual one for the teams that weren't going to be able to make it. And so, and the virtual one, I would have to say this year was just an incredible challenge. We're really excited that UH was generous enough to allow us to train and do this competition because, weekly we would be tested, and it just adds to a lot of the things that they had going on here. And everybody, all the administration, everybody were they were definitely overworked, and they had lots on their plate. So to allow us to do this was a big deal. And the virtual made it a lot easier to do it, technically, and so, but for us, we ended up being the only team that competed with masks on. And so we did all our practices with our masks on, and we competed with masks on. And so there's a lot of little things. So going into it that the masks are going to be a thing, whether they're moving around when we're doing flips and tumbling, or whether people are going to be able to breathe right. But also coming off of COVID, I think once everybody got cleared, it was already February when everybody got cleared to be able to practice. And our semifinals were at the beginning of April. So we had roughly 2 months. And we normally have at least 6 months off the normal summer where everybody's active. Now we have 2 months, and everybody had been sitting at home with the COVID, and everybody, so let's say you do an hour of exercise, but then you're in your house, and so you're not exercising for 23 hours. And so it's not like, if you're active and you're walking around, and you're going to the beach and things like that, and then you add an hour of exercise, that's what people are 2 hours of exercise. That's what they do, but they're not used to such a downtime. So that really did a number. And so when we started working on, of course, we knew there'd be a ramp up, and we wanted to be safe with that. But it was impressively challenging to get everybody back into shape, the shape that we needed to do a nationals routine. So at the same time with the masks were an interesting element. And what we kind of realized was that half of the struggle was being worried that you're not going to be able to breathe instead of actually being able to breathe or not. And so I did this big pitch one day, and I brought pictures of top athletes from 2 years ago paying money to wear masks when they train to get their lungs stronger and to prepare for maybe a higher elevation. And I was like, look, I don't know where my mask is, but these masks, people would pay for this mask 2 years ago just to be able to train with it. So if we get this right, you guys are going to be in better shape than ever. And we really just had to make the decision to embrace the mask. Once they kind of did that, they were unstoppable. And it was a sprint, because by that time we had like a month left. And once they got into shape, and then they kind of figured out the mask thing, we had a month left, and boy, it was, every minute mattered at that point. And so we ended up placing second. In fact, this is what the trophy, you can see the trophy. Mm-hmm. This is actually the last time we placed third, like 15 years ago. And so, and that was our last highest placing. And our actual trophy is being passed around by our super fans. I'll all of a sudden see a picture posted up on Instagram of some other fan kissing our trophy. It'll work its way back here, but they're all excited, which says a lot about them. They're great fans of all the sports teams here. And so Oklahoma put in a good routine, but we were really proud of the routine that we were able to put together in a short amount of time. Probably like other teams, a lot of because of COVID, a lot of recruits pulled back and stayed home. And so people that may not have normally been on one of our national routines had to step up, and they did step up. And the level of heart that I saw this year, it stands up against anything that I've seen any of our teams do, including when I cheered here. These guys had a lot of heart. They had a lot of things that they had to overcome and push through. And like I said, we're the only team that ended up having masks on. So, so there's a lot for us to be proud of. And the team really was courageous in the way they went about things. And so, yeah, even when we hit our routines, and it felt like a win for us. And in a lot of ways it was.
Last one for you here, Coach. If you give your team the day off, how are you enjoying your day off?
Ooh. Wow, that's a good question. Kind of depends on what time of the year, but I really love what I do, and so sometimes if I get the day off, then I actually get a little more time to focus in on a certain project, or maybe I can put I have a little more time to put a social media thing together or get something set up. I definitely try to, I'll try to get to the beach and get in the salt water, try to decompress so that I'm better for the next day of practice. But, I'm not trying to escape cheer. I love this, and it's fun, and what's not to love?
Coach, this has been so much fun. We appreciate the time you've given us today. Thank you again for joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Hopefully we can. For Coach Baker, as well as the rest of us here at ESPN Honolulu, I'm Tiff Wells saying thank you so much for joining us here on the 36th edition of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Until next time, wear that mask, stay safe, and be socially distant.
Go Bows.